Today we are presenting you with a very special episode of Sunday Sessions. I am here with Mr. Jacob Kamara of many things, but the great indoors when it comes to Adorn the Common. So we're going to have a little chat to this young man about his career, how he fits into Adorn the Common, and the kind of many incarnations that he has gone through to find himself here. So you have been a stylist, a producer.
Yes.
You still are a producer.
Still am a producer.
An artist, photographer. You've worked with jewellery brands, you've worked with interior design brands. Was any of that ever intentional, or did you just find yourself there?
No, nothing has ever really been intentional. It's always just, I have this kind of inert need to be around creatives, and it's just been a journey. Nothing has ever been intentional, actually. I still don't know what I'm doing.
You had probably one of the best educations that you could probably ask for in terms of an art education.
Yeah.
You went to Central St Martin's, and prior to that,
London College of
Fashion. Tell me more about that.
Wow. Well, actually, education for me has been very unconventional. I left school in year 7, I don't know what age that is, 12, 13?
Younger. Like year 7 is like junior school. Before.
No, secondary school, first year of secondary school.
Yeah, so you would have been like 10.
I was young anyway. I left then, school just didn't work for me.
Why?
I just really felt all the time just not like a real outsider, and also just those academic lessons, that academic structure doesn't work for me, still doesn't work for me as an adult.
Being told
what to do, I'm really, I'm not good at being told what to do. Also that kind of regiment of those school structures just doesn't work for my brain. Anyway, so I left and did, worked.
How did you find, coming from such a young age and realising that kind of formal education system was not working for you, but then still pursued a higher education in 2 of the best art schools in London, if not on the planet?
Well, I think because I left school, just went about, I kind of fell through the gaps. No one ever came to see where I was. So left, started working from a young age, doing things like, working on a local farm, a local livery yard, gardening, all kinds of crap. And just kind of went on and on and on. And I think when I was 19, 20, I'd actually moved. My older sister had gone to uni in Bristol. She was the first person in the family to go to uni. Gone to uni in Bristol. I was like, I just need my life to change. Also, then moved to Bristol with my sister for a little bit, and I was working in these kind of strings of rubbish admin jobs. And I remember one day just going, "Fuck, this is going to be my life forever if I don't do something." And then on a whim, applied for an access course at the London College of Fashion. Kind of just like, like many things I do, just was like, well, I'll just do it, see what happens. and then got in, and was a huge shock, and then it kind of went from there.
And so you say your older sister Gemma was the first person in your family to progress to higher education.
Yeah.
So she would have been the first person that you would have seen in your immediate kind of circle that did that.
Yeah,
I
honestly,
it wasn't until she did it that you knew that it could happen for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think visibility, representation, you know, seeing what people can do is so important, because I think if my sister hadn't have kind of moved out of this structure that we were born into and went to uni and kind of, you know, did something else, I don't think I would have. I don't think my younger sister would have. You know, that kind of broke the chain, I think.
So at this point, you were living in Hampshire.
Living in Hampshire then, yes.
But you were born in Hackney.
I was born in Hackney. I was born in Hackney Hospital, which is now Homerton Hospital. And then we moved, I can't remember how old I was, but we moved to Portsmouth, and then, which is, you know, a funny city. And then we moved from Portsmouth out to the kind of surrounding countryside of Hampshire.
And then moved back to London.
Yes.
As a 20-year-old.
Yeah, I think I was 19, 20, something like that.
So, obviously, you know, much like me, you're a young lad, young queer lad, growing up in the suburbs, from a council estate, with no real kind of representation around you, with no kind of key figures to relate to. Like, how did you kind of discover that, you know, you obviously you had your sister to kind of guide you, but then what other figures and factors did you have to look to when you were making these decisions to move to London, to start your art degree or your kind of education?
Well, I didn't really in the beginning at all. I had this, I'd always been very creative. Although I think, you know, thinking back at the time, I don't think, well, that was just my brain. I don't think the kind of understanding of creativity or being creative was even, like, I don't think you could understand that, you know. I think I was just, I needed to do stuff all the time. I used to garden a lot. I used to, you know, my mum used to sell net curtains at markets, and I used to like make gowns out of these curtains. So there was always this thing that I needed to do. And then I think as I got a bit older, I was obsessed with Jürgen Teller, obsessed with Alexander McQueen, and that I think kind of moved me into, you know, this, okay, I could maybe do something, I could go somewhere, maybe.
And obviously those, I would imagine that those many years at London College of Fashion and CSM have served you really well. You've had very successful times within the arenas that you've worked in, but in later life, like, how was it for a young queer kid in these establishments that didn't have the resources that many of the other kids do? Like, how did you survive that?
Actually, it was
very cheap.
It was, it was also very difficult because when I went to LCF to do my access course, it was possibly the first time really in my life that I'd been in a situation where everyone was from a different socio-economical background to me, which is fine, but you suddenly realise quite quickly that there are nuances to the class system. There are people that grow up on council estates, you know, are different to people that don't. So navigating that actually was very difficult, and I got into a lot of trouble. I actually got into more trouble at St. Martin's because, I mean, I think it was so hyper, you know, juxtaposed. Of people thinking I was aggressive and people thinking that I was, you know, I don't know, it was awkward, and it took a while for that to you know.
And do you think these situations came about because of the more kind of privileged peers didn't understand your point of view?
I think
that's
so.
Where that frustration came from.
Yeah, I think so, and I think also vice versa. I think I just didn't get them either. You know, there's these things are so normal to people that are from not even necessarily privileged backgrounds, but just kind of, you know, lower middle class backgrounds. These kind of normal ideas of how life works was so removed from what I was used to. So it worked both ways. I didn't get them, they didn't get me. It was also, I had no money, I had no support, and no funding. So things that things, my work became very, and I lent into it. It became very kind of, ratty. I'd take photos on Polaroids, but I couldn't afford to have them rescanned as like proper images. So I would just use the Polaroids and like stick them to the wall or like set them on fire and stuff, which really, kind of shaped my work now. But back then it just wasn't really a visual language that people were using. So I just think it was tough. The first 3 years of my degree was very tough. And then I think in my final year, it all kind of started to make sense.
And at this time as well, like from this, your series and your magazine, The Great Indoors, was born.
Yes.
Talk to me about that. What is it? Where does it come from?
Well,
where can you find it?
The Great Indoors you can't find anywhere anymore. But
it was a book.
It was a book. Yes, it was a book. Or so to speak. There are many forms of books. It wasn't a book as in you could sit and read it. It was this coffee table idea. It was meant to be a kind of lifestyle choice within a book. It started because I had this whole plan at the end of my degree and my final piece to do. At the time, there were no queer publications that were gorgeous, and that felt really strange to me, that you had an entire community of people that like nice things, and actually all of the publications were quite shit and really low budget. So I wanted to do this lifestyle magazine that was really beautiful. And also there was a necessity in it that I was like, I have to do, my final piece can't be this, art for art's sake piece. It really needs to earn me some money because I'm incredibly broke. I think at that point I had like 38p to my name or something. So I went on this journey to do this thing, and I started, and it was, I was probably 3/4 of the way through, and then this horrible thing happened, and I went through this horrible breakup, quite public breakup in uni as well. I mean, if anyone is watching this and goes to St. Martin's or went to St. Martin's then, knows that it was basically like Glee. I mean, it was like every day was like being in a movie. So this breakup was suddenly like, people were making it into art. People were wearing T-shirts being like Team Jacob or Team the other person. And it was really fucked. I can look back on it and laugh at it, and it was like ridiculous, but actually being in that was like totally fucked. Anyway, so that was like, it took over my life, and it was the only thing I could think about. So then The Great Indoors became this kind of diary, this kind of everyday process of dealing with what was happening, and looking at these kind of like, looking at myself and what was happening to me and how I was dealing with that whole thing, and this kind of obsessive nature of it. And honestly, it was the only thing I could do. It was like I had to change the whole concept because I just couldn't function properly. But the silver lining in it is that, I mean, the final piece was amazing, and did really well, and I did really well at my degree for it, and it was picked up by a big establishment, and it was good. And it also pissed off a lot of people on my private view, which this is a story that a lot of people know, that it's kind of an urban legend, but when it was on display at the St. Martin's final show, it was actually set on fire by one of the people in this kind of, this triangle, this love triangle. Anyway, it's still talked about today.
But it was, that was a very tumultuous time for you. You made some amazing discoveries about yourself and your capabilities and your own visual language.
Yeah.
The Great Indoors was not just your final project, it has become a thing now.
Yeah.
You have an incredible following on social media, of all sorts of kind of people, but predominantly queer people.
Yeah.
It is a very kind of beautifully presented selection of imagery, commentary, your own collection of work has developed from that as well, that we sell here at Dormer Common. Tell me where that's going. What's coming next from that?
Well, I mean, the Instagram, the Great Indoors, is, I mean, actually, when it started, it was kind of just, my Instagram was very different when I started the Great Indoors, which was maybe 15, 16 years ago. So one, just Instagram was different because, you know, we were like, what are we, elder millennial? No, we're not elder. I'm not an elder millennial. Like junior millennials or whatever we're called. We're using it in a different way. It wasn't what it was. You know, Gen Z hadn't come along and made it this kind of like big earning platform. So it was basically how I did all of my references for work that I was doing. And also at the time, there just wasn't this imagery of kind of male beauty. That was kind of the whole point of it. It's like looking at male beauty in a different way. Anyway, and it's continued, and it's been tough to continue it actually, because it gets shut down often. It gets, you know, blocked. The Instagram algorithm today blocks it because of queer bodies and censorship, and they don't like talking about queerness or, you know, anything that's not. Or they don't like talking about anything that's not about, you know, white people.
I mean, some of the images can be.
Some of the images are
explicit.
Yeah, but I don't think it's any different to what. It's no more explicit to what we see all the time in campaigns, in fashion campaigns, all the time. But with hetero couples or cis people, you know, I think it's because it's men, queer men, you know, that censorship's in place.
And is this something that drives the desire to create such images, is to just keep pushing it out there,
Absolutely.
So people see more and more and more and more of it
Absolutely.
until it becomes
Absolutely. I mean,
normal.
Proud Boys 10, which is possibly my, you know, most famous piece of work. Famous, I don't know if that's the right word, but popular. Is all about that. It's about censorship. It's about visibility. It's about, you know,
being unashamedly queer.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole of the Great Indoors is about being unashamedly queer. I like to say it's about being actually aggressively queer, and just really ramming it down people's throats.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, if you don't want to see it, don't be here.
Yeah, I actually take a real different stance to that. You know, I feel like that's very of the, like, you know, the boomer generation. If you don't want to see it, then don't look at it. But I kind of feel like, fuck you, like, look at it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why not look at it?
Have you come up against quite a lot of opposition, let's say, when you've other than social media platforms, have you got a lot of like negative clapback from people that are just kind of like scrolling?
From work, actually, no, not at all. Okay. Surprisingly, really surprisingly.
So it's just the social media platforms that are shutting you down, not anything.
It's actually the big establishments that are like blocking. I actually have been. Yeah, I think I've really not had. You know, I do it myself, and I look into comments on stuff, and I'm like, my God, people are hideous. But actually, I rarely have to delete anything. In fact, the only time really recently I've deleted anything was when I did a post about Sam Smith, who I love, by the way, and some of the comments were repulsive, and I actually turned the comments off. But again, that's a whole different story, I think. That's a whole conversation.
Because people mistake you for Sam Smith sometimes.
People do mistake me for Sam Smith often, which I don't know how to feel about, but it does happen a lot.
So, what is next for you, Great Indoors? What have we got coming up in 2024? What can we look forward to seeing?
Well, I'm working on Proud Boys 10. I'm working on the kind of wider journey of that print, of that image, of that story. I'm also working on a show, which I think I've been working on this show for 3 years, I am working on a show called Delicate Little Things.
It's a long time coming, but it's coming.
Which just, I mean, it darts around the... I don't know. I think this is probably the ADHD that does this, but I'm like, oh, it's there, it's done. And this is exactly what it is. This is what I'm saying. And then something else will happen in life, and I'm like, oh, maybe it can move here or move there. And also things come up, like work. I do other work. So then every time I seem to be ready and want to and get kind of a day or a space that I want to do it in, a job comes in, and then I can't do it. So it's going to happen. I just, these things take a bit of time.
So kind of circle back to that. Obviously, you're a very highly functioning person. You're very much involved here at Adorn.
Yeah.
You are a sought after producer.
Yes, thank you.
Do you like relaxing? Do you like taking time off? Because it doesn't seem that you ever do.
I'm not a very chill person. I don't find the kind of that kind of standard type of relaxation, that kind of sitting on a beach, doing nothing, relaxing at all. I actually find it quite stressful because then it allows. I feel like every time I stop, my brain is like, what can we do next? So yeah, I mean, I do like to relax, but not in that way. I actually find it more relaxing doing stuff, getting through the things, finishing ideas, starting new work, more relaxing than doing nothing. Okay. Doing nothing I find very stressful.
De-stressing stresses you out.
Yeah, but I don't think it's de-stressing. I did just, that kind of notion of doing nothing as a de-stressor is very stressful for me.
So you feel like if there's time, it needs to be utilised productively.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, I'm feeling this. You know how much I'm feeling this. A lot of people that know me that might be watching know how much I've been feeling this. Just as you get older, the realisation that we're really not here for very long is so intense that just sitting and doing nothing is so stressful because, you've got limited time and just got the things to do.
Prints to make, pots to make.
Just stuff. It's amazing, it's just things. And you've got to do them.
You have indeed. Well, obviously, I know you very well.
Yes.
And thank you for being part of this. But before we leave, I'm going to put you on the spot and embarrass you. This is a tradition with Sunday sessions.
Yes, I've seen.
We are going to do a little word association game, but we're going to do it quick so I can save yourself the anguish. Okay, so you know how it goes.
I do, yeah.
I am gonna start with the word skeleton.
Body.
Limb.
Leg.
Arm.
Hand.
Nail.
Bite.
Teeth.
Tongue.
Lick.
Tits.
Boob.
Breast.
Nipple.
Baby.
Infant.
Oh God. Foal.
No, you took your time. You took your time.
Weird thing to say.
Thank you so much. That is the end of episode 4 of Sunday Sessions with the wonderful Jacob Kamara. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time. That was good.
Was it?